The phone vibrated against the sterile countertop of Harborview Medical Center's trauma bay, its buzz swallowed by the chaos of beeping monitors and shouted orders. I glanced at the screen, my heart lurching. Ava's name flashed, but the message was a gut punch. Going home. Don't worry. My 16-year-old daughter, alone, driving through a Seattle blizzard on Christmas Day because my family, my own flesh and blood, had cast her out like she was nothing. My gloved hands trembled as I sutured a patient's lacerated artery, the crimson blood under the surgical lights mirroring the rage boiling inside me. How could they? How could my parents, William and Margaret Thompson, and my sister Claire, tell Ava there was no room at their precious Christmas table? I pictured her, my brave, beautiful girl, in her sapphire dress, clutching the pecan pie she'd spent hours perfecting, driving alone into the storm. And then the image shifted, her car skidding on black ice, tires screaming, a semi-truck's headlights bearing down. The memory of her near miss on the way to their Bellevue mansion earlier that day clawed at my chest. She'd escaped death by inches, and now this? I forced my focus back to the patient, but my mind screamed, "This ends now!" I'm Emily Carter, 38, a trauma surgeon who's spent 15 years stitching together strangers' lives while mine frayed at the edges. Harborview is my battlefield, where I've saved countless souls from car wrecks, gunshots, and heart attacks. But nothing prepared me for the wound my family inflicted on my daughter. Ava, my everything, is 16, with auburn hair that catches the light like fire and a resilience that both humbles and breaks me. Her father, Mark, left us when she was 6, chasing a finance job in London. His calls are as rare as a clear Seattle sky, and his child support checks, though punctual, can't replace the father-shaped hole in her life. Ava stopped expecting more years ago, her strength a quiet rebellion against his absence. But my parents, my sister, they were supposed to be her safe harbor, not the storm that sent her spinning into the night. Christmas Eve had started with a deceptive calm. I was scrubbing in for a marathon shift, the hospital stretched thin by a brutal flu season and a pile-up on I-5. Ava and I had our tradition the night before, a cozy movie marathon in our Capitol Hill apartment, curled up under a quilt with hot cocoa and It's a Wonderful Life. She'd unwrapped my gift, a silver paintbrush charm for her bracelet, her eyes sparkling as she hugged me. "You're the best, Mom," she'd said, her voice warm but tinged with the weight of another holiday without her dad. I'd kissed her forehead, promising we'd make it work despite my absence. "You sure you're okay driving to Grandma's tomorrow?" I'd asked, my stomach knotting at the thought of her on the roads. She'd just gotten her license, and the forecast warned of snow. "Mom, it's fine," she'd insisted, rolling her eyes with that teenage bravado. "It's only 30 minutes to Bellevue. I've got this." But she almost didn't. On her way to my parents' mansion, her beat-up Honda skidded on black ice, the tires losing grip as a semi-truck roared past, missing her by a heartbeat. She'd called me, voice shaky but steady, describing how she'd pulled over, hands trembling on the wheel, the truck's horn still echoing in her ears. "I'm okay, Mom," she'd said, but I heard the fear she wouldn't admit. I'd been in the middle of a thoracotomy, chest cracked open, unable to leave. "Be careful, Ava," I'd pleaded, my voice tight. "Text me when you get there." She had, and I'd let myself believe she'd be safe with family. How wrong I was. My parents, William and Margaret Thompson, live in a sprawling Bellevue estate, a monument to their tech wealth and socialite status. Dad, a retired CEO who built a software empire, and Mom, the queen of charity galas, have always curated their lives like a glossy magazine spread. Their Christmas dinners are legendary, candlelit with Waterford crystal and a string quartet, every detail screaming perfection. My sister Claire, married to David, a high-flying attorney, fits right into their world. Her twins, Liam and Sophie, 14 and 11, are their golden grandchildren, showered with Tesla shares and European ski trips. Me? I'm the outlier, the daughter who chose scrubs over stock options, medicine over money. To them, my career is noble but embarrassing, a step down from their gilded expectations. And Ava? She's the collateral damage of their disappointment in me. Ava spent years trying to win their love. She'd show up to their galas, helping with play settings while Margaret critiqued her thrift store jeans. She'd pour her heart into handmade gifts, sketchbooks filled with drawings of Puget Sound, only to watch Liam unwrap a new MacBook while her gift sat ignored. I'd see the hurt in her eyes, but she'd shrug it off. "It's okay, Mom," she'd say, her smile never reaching her eyes. They loved me in their own way. I'd let it slide, convincing myself family harmony was worth the cost. I'd been wrong for too long. That Christmas morning, I'd left for my shift at 6 a.m., the hospital already a war zone. A multi-car crash had flooded the ER with trauma cases, and I was elbow-deep in a surgery when Ava texted, "Made it to Grandma's. Roads were dicey, but I'm fine." Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. As the day wore on, her texts grew sparse, their tones shifting from excited to curt. "Aunt Claire brought extra people, some of David's clients. Then, dinner's running late, house is packed." By 5 p.m., the ER was a madhouse. Broken bones, overdoses, a kid with a burn from a Christmas light fire. I hadn't checked my phone in an hour when Ava's final message hit. "Going home. Don't worry." I stole a moment between patients, my hands shaking as I dialed her. Voicemail. Again. Panic clawed up my throat. "Dr. Carter, we need you in Bay 3, a nurse shouted, but all I could see was Ava, alone, driving through the snow. I texted, "Call me now." No response. My colleague, Dr. Rachel Nguyen, a cardiologist who's been my rock through countless shifts, caught my expression. "Emily, what's wrong?" she asked, her dark eyes sharp with concern. I showed her the text, my voice breaking. "My family sent Ava home, alone, in this storm." Rachel's face darkened. "That's unforgivable. Is she okay?" I didn't know. I couldn't know. The hospital's needs pinned me in place, but every fiber of me screamed to run to my daughter. When I finally reached Ava, her voice was too calm, like she was holding herself together with sheer will. "I'm fine, Mom. I'm almost home." But then she told me what happened, and my world tilted. Margaret, my own mother, had pulled Ava aside as the dining room filled with Claire's uninvited guests. David's elite clients, all in tailored suits, sipping vintage Bordeaux. "There's no room at the table, dear," Margaret had said, her voice dripping with false regret. "Why don't you eat in the kitchen? You're young. You'll manage." Ava, clutching her pecan pie, had nodded, swallowing her hurt. But it got worse. Claire made sure Liam and Sophie, younger than Ava, had seats at the main table, their laughter ringing out as Ava sat alone. Then a guest, some smug lawyer, smirked. "Are you the caterer's kid?" The kitchen heater, old and faulty, sparked suddenly, flames licking the counter where Ava stood. She'd scrambled back, unharmed but shaken, as Margaret rushed in, not to check on her, but to fuss over the serving dishes. "This is too hectic, Ava," Margaret had said, her eyes cold. "Maybe come back next year when it's less crowded." Claire stood in the doorway, silent. David, ever the diplomat, suggested Ava wait in their Bentley. No one stopped her as she grabbed her coat and left, the pie abandoned on the counter. Ava's voice cracked as she recounted it, and I gripped the phone, my vision blurring with tears and rage. "Nobody even checked if I was okay, Mom," she said. "I just left." The storm had worsened, snow piling on the roads. A drunk driver swerved into her lane, headlights blinding her as she jerked the wheel, her car fishtailing before she pulled over, heart pounding. "I'm being careful," she promised, but I could hear the tremble in her voice. "Stay on the phone," I begged, but her battery died mid-sentence, leaving me in a void of fear. Back at the hospital, a patient coded, a young man from the I-5 crash, his chest a mess of fractures. My hands moved on autopilot, but my mind was with Ava. "Clear!" I shouted, the defibrillator's jolt echoing my own desperation. Rachel stayed close, her presence grounding me as we stabilized him. "She's strong, Emily," she whispered during a brief lull. "Felt your family? They've crossed a line." I nodded, the weight of years of their slights crashing down. Ava at 10, relegated to a folding chair while Liam got a custom drone. Ava at 13, her art portfolio dismissed as Margaret gushed over Sophie's ballet trophy. I'd made excuses. "That's just how Mom is, Dad's too busy." Claire's caught up in her own world, no more, no. When my shift ended at 2 a.m., I raced home, the streets slick with ice. Our apartment was dark, the Christmas tree's lights casting a lonely glow. On the coffee table sat a paper plate with a half-eaten slice of pizza, a can of soda, and a Post-it. "Save you some, Mom." My heart shattered. In Ava's room, she was curled up, still in her sapphire dress, tear tracks on her cheeks. Her phone lay dead beside her, and on her nightstand was the unopened gift I'd left, a charm engraved with "You are enough." Her desk held the gifts she'd made for my family, untouched, their wrapping paper mocking her effort. And then I smelled it. Gas, faint but unmistakable. I yanked open the windows, grabbed Ava, and got us out, calling maintenance from the hallway. A leak in our ancient heater, they said later, could have been deadly. Another close call in a night of too many. I took a personal day, a rarity that raised eyebrows at the hospital. Over breakfast, pancakes shaped like snowflakes, Ava's favorite, I called my parents. Voicemail, of course. "What happened to Ava was unacceptable," I said, my voice steel. "We're done with your games. If you want us in your lives, things change. Now." I texted Claire, my words sharp. "You let Ava be humiliated. Your silence spoke volumes." Her reply was quick, defensive. "It was chaotic, Emily, not personal." I fired back. "A 16-year-old alone on Christmas? That's as personal as it gets." Rachel, bless her, rallied our makeshift family. She arrived with groceries, followed by neighbors Sarah and Tom, who brought a roasted chicken. 2 colleagues, Dr. Ethan Brooks and Nurse Mia Lopez, showed up with desserts and tamales, our apartment filled with laughter, the kind my parents' mansion never held. Ava, shy at first, bloomed under their attention, showing off her sketches to Ethan, who listened with genuine interest. Then the doorbell rang. Claire, alone, her eyes red. "I'm sorry, Ava," she said, voice breaking. "I was wrong." Ava hesitated, then nodded, a small step toward healing. But the hospital wasn't done with me. Mid-celebration, my phone buzzed. A board member, Dr. Kessler, demanding I return for an emergency surgery. "Your fellowship's on the line," he barked. I refused, my voice firm. "My daughter comes first." Later, in the quiet, Ava and I talked. "I thought they loved me," she whispered, recounting every cruel detail. The heater fire, the drunk driver, Margaret's cold dismissal, I held her, promising, "No one will hurt you like that again. Not while I'm here." The next morning, we met my family at a Capitol Hill cafe, neutral ground. Margaret's apology was half-hearted, William's more sincere. Ava spoke, her voice steady. "I need you to show you value me." I laid out our terms: equal treatment, respect, no more favoritism. Claire, to my surprise, backed us up. "We failed her," she admitted. "It wasn't over, but it was a start." As we left, Ava squeezed my hand, her sapphire dress catching the light. "Thanks, Mom," she said, "for fighting for me." I smiled, knowing this was just the beginning. What secrets drove Margaret's cruelty? Could William's remorse hold? And what would the hospital's retaliation mean for my career? For now, Ava was safe, and that was enough. The Capitol Hill Cafe smelled of roasted coffee and cinnamon, but the air between us crackled with something sharper: betrayal, raw and unyielding. Ava sat beside me, her hands folded tightly in her lap, her sapphire dress swapped for a forest green sweater that seemed to defy Margaret's earlier jab about her style. Across the table, my parents, William and Margaret Thompson, looked out of place in their tailored coats, their Bellevue polish clashing with the cafe's bohemian vibe. Claire, my sister, sat to Ava's right, her face pale, her usual poise fraying at the edges. The silence was a living thing, heavy and suffocating, as I waited for them to speak first. I'd laid down the gauntlet yesterday, my voice cold over the phone. No more excuses, no more favoritism, no more treating Ava like an afterthought. Now, I needed to see if they'd rise to the challenge or double down on their cruelty. Ava's words from last night echoed in my mind. "I need you to show you value me." My daughter, 16 and braver than I'd ever been at her age, deserved that much. But as Margaret's lips pursed, her eyes darting to William, I braced for a fight. The night before had been a whirlwind of warmth and defiance. Our apartment, usually quiet, had buzzed with life as Rachel, Dr. Ethan Brooks, Nurse Mia Lopez, and neighbors Sarah and Tom turned a grim Christmas into a celebration. Laughter had filled the space, plates piled with tamales and roasted chicken, Ava's sketches passed around with genuine awe. But the joy was nearly derailed when the elevator lurched to a stop, plunging us into darkness. Ava's breath hitched beside me, her hand gripping mine as the air grew stale. "Mom," she whispered, her voice small. I squeezed back, my own heart racing. "We're okay, sweetheart, just a glitch." But the seconds stretched, the emergency button unresponsive, and I couldn't shake the image of the gas leak that had forced us out hours earlier. Was this bad luck, or something darker? The power surged back just as my panic crested, the doors sliding open to Rachel's worried face. "You two all right?" she asked, helping us out. Ava nodded, but her eyes held a flicker of fear I hadn't seen since her drive home in the blizzard. That moment lingered as I stared at my family now, their faces a mix of discomfort and defensiveness. William cleared his throat, his tech CEO gravitas faltering. "Emily, Ava, we're sorry about Christmas," he said, his gaze settling on Ava. "It was wrong, what happened. You should have been at the table." Ava's fingers twitched, but she stayed silent, her eyes searching his for sincerity. Margaret shifted, her manicured nails tapping the table. "It was chaotic," she said, her voice tight. "Those clients were important to David's firm. I didn't mean to exclude anyone." Her words were a half apology, thin as the ice Ava had skidded on. Claire glanced at her, then down, her silence louder than any excuse. I leaned forward, my voice low but sharp. "You told my daughter there was no room for her, Mom. You sent her home alone in a storm while Liam and Sophie, younger than her, sat with your guests. That wasn't chaos, that was a choice." Margaret's cheeks flushed, but before she could retort, Claire spoke, her voice trembling. I should have said something. I saw it happening and I froze. Ava, I'm so sorry. Ava's eyes met hers, a flicker of surprise softening her guarded expression. I hadn't expected Claire to admit fault so openly, but her words carried a weight I couldn't ignore. She'd texted me last night, confessing her jealousy of my bond with Ava, her own twins more distant despite their privileged lives. Was this remorse real, or a performance to save face? David, her husband, wasn't here, and I wondered if his absence signaled his disapproval or something worse. The cafe's hum faded as William leaned forward, his hands clasped. What do you want from us, Emily? He asked, his tone earnest but edged with frustration. We're here. We're apologizing. I exchanged a glance with Ava, her nod giving me strength. We want respect, I said, equal treatment for Ava. No more favoritism. No more criticizing her choices, her art, her clothes. And when you cross the line, you own it. If you can't do that, we're done. Ava spoke then, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I love you, Grandma, Grandpa, Aunt Claire, but I need to know you value me, not just with words, but with actions. Her words hung in the air, a challenge and a plea. William's eyes softened, but Margaret's lips thinned, her gaze flicking to the window as if searching for an escape. The conversation teetered, and I sensed an undercurrent, something unspoken in Margaret's rigidity, William's quick glances at her. Why had she prioritized David's clients over her granddaughter? Was it just social climbing, or did a deeper grudge fuel her coldness? I thought of a memory from years ago, Margaret's sharp words when I chose medicine over their world. You're throwing away your potential. Emily, had Ava become a proxy for her resentment? Before I could press, my phone buzzed, a hospital alert, code blue Trauma Bay 2. My heart sank. Dr. Kessler, the board member who'd threatened my fellowship yesterday, had made it clear. One more absence and my career could stall. I silenced the call, but the pressure gnawed at me. Claire broke the tension. There were other options, she said, her voice firmer now, aimed at Margaret. We could have eaten in shifts, borrowed chairs, anything but sending Ava away. Margaret's eyes flashed. You didn't object at the time, Claire. Claire flinched but held her ground. I know, and I've apologized to Ava for that, but you made the call, Mom. The accusation landed like a slap, and for a moment I saw Margaret's mask slip. Anger, yes, but something else. Guilt? Fear? William touched her arm, a subtle warning, and I wondered what secrets they shared. We agreed to meet again in January, on neutral ground, to set specific rules. As we stood to leave, William hugged Ava tightly, whispering something that made her smile faintly. Margaret's embrace was stiff, her eyes avoiding mine. Claire walked us to our car, her voice low. I meant what I said, Emily. I want to make this right. I nodded, but skepticism lingered. David's absence loomed large. Claire had mentioned his frustration with my ultimatum. Would he push back, threatening the fragile progress? Back home, Ava and I sank onto the couch, the Christmas tree still glowing softly. That was intense, she said, her voice a mix of relief and exhaustion. I pulled her close, her head resting on my shoulder. You were incredible, sweetheart. I'm so proud. She smiled, but her eyes held questions. Do you think they'll change? I hesitated, wanting to protect her, but knowing she deserved truth. I hope so. But we're not waiting for them. We're building our own family with people who see you for you. The next week was a blur of hospital shifts and quiet moments with Ava. Rachel, ever the anchor, stopped by with takeout, her dark humor cutting through the tension. "Your mom sounds like she'd rather host a gala for strangers than hug her grandkid," she said, passing me a spring roll. I laughed, but the truth stung. Ethan Brooks, the trauma surgeon who'd joined our cruisin', texted to check on us, his concern warming me in ways I wasn't ready to admit. Ava caught me smiling at my phone and grinned. "Dr. Brooks, huh? He's got those hero vibes." I rolled my eyes, deflecting, but her teasing sparked a flicker of possibility I hadn't felt in years. But danger shadowed us. One night, as I parked outside our apartment, my car's brakes felt spongy, the pedal sinking too far. I barely stopped before hitting a pole, my pulse hammering. The mechanic's report chilled me. The brake line had been cut, not worn. An accident? Or sabotage? I thought of the gas leak, the elevator outage, Ava's near misses on the road. Were these coincidences, or was someone targeting us? I kept it from Ava, not wanting to scare her, but I double-checked our locks and installed a security camera. At the hospital, the pressure mounted. Kessler called me into his office, his voice smooth but threatening. "Your absence on Christmas raised concerns, Emily. The fellowship committee values reliability." I met his gaze, unflinching. My daughter was in crisis. I'd make the same choice again. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Choices have consequences. Later, Rachel warned me. "Kessler's gunning for you. He's buddies with David, your sister's husband. Watch your back." The connection jolted me. Was David orchestrating this, punishing me for challenging his family status quo? Ava, meanwhile, threw herself into her art, sketching stormy seas and fractured families. William called her, surprising us both, offering to fund a small studio in our spare room. "I want to support your talent, Ava," he said, his voice earnest. She hesitated, then agreed, and I watched them build shelves together one weekend, their laughter a fragile bridge. But Margaret's efforts were slower, her texts to Ava stilted, her invitation to a gallery exhibit feeling more like duty than desire. I wondered, what held her back? A childhood slight? A deeper wound? Claire's transformation was the most unexpected. She invited Ava to help Sophie with an art project, fostering a bond between the cousins. At a coffee meetup, she confessed, "I've always envied you and Ava, Emily. My kids love me, but we're not close like you two." Her vulnerability disarmed me, but David's shadow loomed. He texted me late one night, "You're tearing this family apart. Back off, or we're done." The threat sent a chill down my spine. Was he behind the brake line? The elevator? I saved the message, my resolve hardening. One evening, as Ava and I walked home from a diner, a car sped past, too close, its engine roaring. I pulled Ava back, my heart racing as it vanished into the night. "Just a jerk," I said, but my voice shook. That night, I found a note slipped under our door. "Stay in your lane." No signature, but the handwriting was sharp, deliberate. I called Rachel, who urged me to go to the police, but what proof did I have? Instead, I taught Ava self-defense moves, her laughter masking the fear we both felt. The hospital pushed me to my limits. A mass shooting downtown flooded the ER, and I worked 36 hours straight, saving lives while my own teetered. During a rare break, Ethan found me, his blue eyes steady. "You're carrying too much, Emily," he said, handing me coffee. "Let me help." His kindness cracked my armor, and I admitted my fears, the accidents, David's threat, Kessler's pressure. He listened, then offered, "I know a guy in security. Let me get you some protection." I nodded, grateful, a spark of something more igniting between us. The breaking point came one stormy night. Ava and I were baking cookies, her laughter filling the kitchen, when the power cut out. Not just our apartment, the whole building. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You were warned." Glass shattered downstairs and Ava screamed. I grabbed a knife, pulling her behind me as footsteps echoed in the hall. "Stay quiet," I whispered, my pulse deafening. The security camera's feed, accessible on my phone, showed a hooded figure spray painting our door. "Leave." Then, a miracle. Sirens. Sarah, our neighbor, had called 911 spotting the intruder. The figure fled, but the damage was done. Ava clung to me, sobbing, and I held her, my own tears falling. "I'm so sorry, baby," I said. "This is my fault." She shook her head. "No, Mom, you're fighting for us." The police took our statement, but without clear evidence, their hands were tied. Ethan arrived, his face grim, bringing a private investigator he trusted. "We'll figure this out," he promised, his hand brushing mine. Rachel stayed over, her presence a lifeline. The next day, I confronted Claire at her office, showing her David's text and the note. "Is he behind this?" I demanded. She paled, shaking her head. "He's angry, but no." But her eyes betrayed doubt. "I'll talk to him," she vowed. "This stops now." William stepped up, moving Ava's studio project forward, his guilt palpable. He confessed during a quiet moment. "I failed you both, Emily. I let Margaret's bitterness rule too long." "Bitterness?" I pressed, but he clammed up, promising only, "I'll make it right." Margaret, meanwhile, took Ava to the gallery. Her praise for Ava's sketches awkward but genuine. Ava returned glowing but cautious. "She tried, Mom," she said, "but it's weird, like she's scared of something." The hospital's retaliation hit hard. Kessler blocked my fellowship application, citing inconsistent commitment. Rachel and Ethan rallied colleagues to protest, but the damage stung. Yet, it clarified my priorities. I applied for a new position at a rival hospital, one valuing work-life balance. And Ethan? Our coffee dates became dinners, his steady presence a balm. Ava teased, "He's a keeper, Mom," her approval meaning everything. The climax came at our January family meeting, held at a waterfront restaurant. William brought notes, his accountant's precision outlining new rules, equal gifts, shared time, open communication. Claire supported us, her resolve firm, despite David's absence. Margaret struggled, her apologies halting, but Ava's directness, "I need you to stop comparing me to Sophie and Liam," broke through. "I'll try, Ava," Margaret said, tears in her eyes. I want to be better." William squeezed her hand, and I glimpsed a shared pain, a hint of their own fractured past. As we left, a text from Ethan. "Pi found something. Call me." My heart raced. The investigator had traced the note's paper to David's firm, a damning link. I confronted Claire privately, her face crumpling. "I'll handle him," she said, her voice steel. Days later, she called. David admitted to the note, a scare tactic to protect his reputation. He'd stop short of the break line or break in, but the truth was enough. Claire filed for separation, choosing her integrity and Ava over her marriage. Spring brought healing. William and Ava fished at Lake Washington, their bond growing. Margaret joined Ava's art classes, her walls slowly crumbling. Claire rebuilt trust, hosting Ava and Sophie for movie nights. My new job offered stability, and Ethan proposed a summer trip with Ava, his grin infectious. Ava's art flourished, her sketches now bold, fearless. One evening, on our balcony, she hugged me. "You showed me how to stand up, Mom," she said. "I'm not scared anymore." I held her, tears falling, knowing we'd forged a family not of blood, but of choice. Real, unbreakable, and ours.